What about surprise packages? Who do you think's fallen underneath the radar that might actually surprise us?
I got Nottingham Forest. I know Rio will probably differ, but I think in Steve Cooper they got a fantastic manager. Great success. I think they've got 13 players in. Lingard, I think he will do well for them. He likes to run in behind, and I think his experience will be good. Will the players gel? That's the big question with so many new players in. But I think there's a feel-good factor about Nottingham Forest, and I think that Fulham and Bournemouth, I think, will both go down. But I think Forest will stay up.
Have you ever been in a squad where they've had that many new players coming in a window?
I was Derby when they were in that January. I went there. They had 7 points. We finished with 11.
Well. So it bodes well, it bodes well.
Case in point.
So it didn't go that well. But that was a different scenario. Yeah. It's a lot of players, really, isn't it?
Yeah, 30 new players in a window is hard to go, okay, we're going to throw them together and go, that's going to be the right mix. Yeah. And like Jesse, even Jesse's a good point as well. As Jesse, he went West Ham, they had a fair amount of the ball. The big question is, will Forest have enough ball to give him and get him in good areas to have the impact we're anticipating? So there's a lot of questions. There are with all the teams, but Forest, for me, I think they'll be one of my favourites to go down, I'll be honest.
It might not necessarily be good for Forest, but I think it'll be good for the league, because you see some teams come up and they just bin it off straight away. They don't really have a go. We'll take the money. Well, I know they spent a bit of money last year, but Norwich previously have done that. And it's kind of, what's the point in being here?
Is that their model?
There are teams that have done that. I mean, Bolton years ago did it. Bournemouth don't look like they're spending masses this year. They seem to have changed it, so we'll get the money, and if we go down, we'll try and come back stronger. At least Forest are having a go. They're spending a lot of money. He's not come just to survive. And you could criticise him.
Norwich had a go. They were 13th biggest spenders in Europe last year. So as an argument, say they had a go for their model.
Yeah, for their model.
Do you think Bournemouth are buying for, or other teams are do they buy for players who they're thinking who are going to be good to get them up the following season?
They got Tavernier, didn't they, recently? And that's what that looked like to me.
It's interesting,
go back to Bournemouth. Go on, Bournemouth. It was interesting.
It just seems a switch from the previous days of being bankrolled and spending huge money to a more, and you would say it's a lot more responsible, but we're not Bournemouth supporters. So if you want to be entertained and you want to see teams have a go, then it's probably better for us if you've got somebody like Forest throwing the cash at it. If I'm a Forest fan, I might be a little bit nervous about where we are in 3 years' time.
What about Villa?
Big season for them, man. Massive investment. They've done their business early. Yeah. I like that.
Here's one for you then. So, as a centre-half captain, Tyrone Mings has had the captaincy taken off him past to John McGinn. How would you feel?
Oh, devastated. I don't care who you are. I don't care what explanation's given. You're sitting there going, wow, you obviously don't fancy me then, and I ain't going to be playing as much as I thought I would be. I don't see Mings playing this season. I think it'll be the new fella, Costa and Konza. I think they'll play, and he'll be like backup.
What do you think is success for them this season, Villa?
I think again a strong top 8, top 10 finish. I think top 8 with the investment that they've had. I think the forwards need a big season this year. Watkins to push on again, Danny Ings, Bailey, who they bought from Leverkusen, he had injury last year, but if he can come on again, it'd be interesting to see how Ramsey does as well, the young midfielder. He's a very good show. Good for his first season last season. The second season is the one where you go, okay, he's a real deal. So I want to see that. And if he can get him going, and Coutinho pulling the strings, a little magician.
And Buendia as well.
Yeah, if they get going, they've got players who can be match winners in that team if they get the right type of ball in the right areas.
Nobody's mentioned Newcastle yet.
It's the same question. What for Newcastle? If you're a Newcastle fan, what's success this season?
Conference League. No? So if you think of this big six, right? If Newcastle finish in the top 6, what a season. So remember City, when they got the money, they bought Robinho, do you remember?
Yeah.
It was 32 million.
Yeah.
And then it took them how many years? They had Sparky as manager, didn't they? How many years did it take them to get to where they are now? When Newcastle went for Chris Wood and Target last year, they were great signings to get them to stay in the Premier.
Safe,
yeah, Dan Burn as well. So, but now they've got to be looking at Maddison. But when do they go to that next level? I think if they can get Conference League football 7th, the best of the rest this season, I think that would be success. Do you not think?
I agree. I think with City as well, they managed to time it just before FFP came in. So that trap bridge was closing and they could spend the money on your Tevez's, people like that, Robinho, and not worry about the financial implications and getting done by UEFA. Newcastle are very well aware of that, so it's going to be a lot more difficult for them, I think.
What kind of a season do you think Newcastle will have?
Well, he's a good coach, we know that, and I think with the World Cup break coming up, he'll have a lot more time to work with his players. I think that will help Newcastle as well. I don't think they'll have masses going over there. I just think if you're a Newcastle supporter, and we know what they're like, and we know they're great fans, I think they're going to have to be patient. And if it's me, I'm thinking if we can get in the top 10 this season, then I'd take that every day.
Yeah, I agree with the top 10.
You mentioned the World Cup there. It's going to be a very unique season in terms of the format. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have on the season itself, Rio?
Well, fatigue is going to be the key word this season, and managing that. Obviously, the bigger teams have bigger squads, but they'll have more players going to this tournament, and it's how you manage them. And there's going to be an element of luck. The conditioned players come back in as well. So who manages that area and who gets a bit lucky in that area could have a big bearing on who wins the league or who finishes in certain positions.
Say the 2 weeks before the World Cup starts, and you might hate this as former players, but
I didn't know about World Cups.
but if you're, say, a Wales or an Argentina trying to win it for Messi, for example, and it's a huge deal, this World Cup, they want to win it for Messi before he goes.
Wales won it for Bale.
Well, there you go. And there's 2 weeks to go until you're due to go away on World Cup duty. Are you going to have at the back of your mind, if I go in for this 50-50 year, there's a chance I might miss the World Cup?
I would be very surprised if any footballers feel like that. The moment you feel like that is when you get injured. If you go in and you're thinking about, I might just hold out. When you go in for a 50-50 and you don't go wholeheartedly, that's when you get hurt. That's what you taught as a kid. I don't believe players would do that. I think they're committed. They're going to be committed in the tackle for their team. And then, finish that block, we're going away with the national team.
I remember when Rio went in for the challenge at Ewood Park.
Here we go.
When he played in midfield, and I seen him coming, and the only red card of his career. I seen him coming miles behind the play, slow, couldn't read it. And he got for the challenge.
This guy. This is 25 years old, this one.
Yeah. That's probably his greatest achievement.
His only red card of his career. And then I battered him in the tunnel at Old Trafford.
Has that got anything to do with the World Cup?
He can lie, this guy. He's a good liar. He's a good
Battered
liar.
him in the tunnel.
A fight, he thinks he beat me, he didn't.
Ask him.
Say that a bit louder. What was that?
Well, carry on.
Rio thought he beat you, but he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. No.
Rio, you have a right to reply.
He knows what happened in that tunnel. He called his
Robbie,
mates.
what kind of impact do you think the World Cup could have on the season?
I agree with what Mike and Real said. I think the interesting thing this season is also the 5 subs. Nine substitutes now, you can use 5. Will that benefit the bigger, better squads? I'm not sure. I think it'll benefit everybody. I think tactically, even at the lower echelons of the table, I think 5 subs will benefit anybody. So I think it's a good thing, especially with the World Cup. A lot of people say, well, it will benefit, like for instance, the Man Cities, Liverpools of this world, who have got bigger squads, better players. But I think it will benefit everybody.
Let's talk relegation. Rio, for you, which are the teams that are going down?
I think all 3 teams that came up will go back down this year. I think Forest, Bournemouth and Fulham will all go down. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
Right, who for you? Who are you worried about?
If you're a Bournemouth fan and you're waiting for the fixtures to come out and then they land and you're thinking, they've got City away, Liverpool away in the first month, Arsenal at home, and it's that, it's vital if you come up that you get off to a quick start.
Could be adrift after August.
Yeah, can't see it for Bournemouth. Fulham again, they just don't look like they've done enough business to be competitive. With Forest, I can see what Rio's saying, and it will be fascinating to see how all those new faces gel. But as I said, they've had a go, and I think the owner expects big things for them. So that will be fascinating to watch. Southampton, a lot of the time you look at how a team has finished the season as an indicator as to how they'll start the next one. Southampton, I think they won 1 out of the last 12 at the end of last season. So I'm looking at Southampton, and there were questions over the manager last year, and he could be one of the first. If they get off to a slow start, he could be one of the first out of the door.
They've lost Brozier as well, haven't they? He had a big impact, gone back to Chelsea. So they ain't got many goals in that team, have they?
No.
Other than set pieces with Ward-Prowse.
Robbie, who are you worried about?
I think Everton and Leeds, I think Mike said Everton's squad is arguably worse than last season, and it was the Frank Lampard, you know, the way he galvanised everybody, his relationship with the fans. You seen when Calvert-Lewin scored that header, was it the Gladys Street end, you know, and the emotion on that night, and Frank embraced the fans. I think Frank's, done exceptional to keep them up, but losing Richarlison's huge. And if you look at it now, do we think Everton will do okay because it's Everton? And do we think Manchester United will finish in the top 4 because it's Manchester United? But when does that stop? That's Everton's Everton, and nobody's too big to go down. They survived, just last season, but they're arguably worse this season in terms of the players. So I don't think we should look past Everton, but I think they will stay up because of Frank. And then I look at Leeds, done well to stay up last year, but losing Rafinha, you know Leeds better than me, fantastic player. Calvin Phillips. I think Leeds, I'd be worried. I know
Are you more worried about Everton and Leeds then than the 3 promoted sides?
No, I think Fulham and Bournemouth will go down, and I think it'll be one from. I'll say Leeds. But I would worry for Everton, Southampton as well. Because
I think Everton, I think it's interesting with Everton. I think, and obviously we know Frank from working with him and playing with him, but if they can use the back end of the season, the last 7 or 8 games, as almost like the blueprint, and engage that fan base. Because you know what it's like. You play at Goodison. If them fans are on side, mate, it's a hard place to go. Yeah. And when they get a bit of momentum and they get something out of the team, a bit of a tackle, an opportunity, a chance, that crowd, it's an intimidating. It's one of the hardest places I've played as a Man United player because of the fans and the backing they give their team. And it hadn't been there for a while. And all of a sudden, Frank and the team somehow got that going at the end of the season, and it got them points. And if they can utilise that, then I think they'll be okay. I don't think they'll be too far from it, but I think they'll be okay if they can utilise that fan base.
And there's a couple of decent signings as well at Everton. McNeil from Burnley, I think, always did well against Everton, and I think he'll do a good job for them. And Tarkowski from Burnley on a free, I think he's great business at centre-half. He will add a lot of solidity to that back line.
Well, Frank Lampard is odds-on favourite to be the first manager to get the sack.
Is he?
He's odds-on favourite.
Wow.
What do you reckon to that?
I don't think so. No, I can't see that. I think there's a few that will be before him. I just feel there's going to be other teams that will struggle a bit more, and maybe have a history of struggling for a bit longer period than him, who might be a bit ahead of him.
You always got to look at Frank. What did he? He went into Everton. Rafa Benitez went in, it didn't work. Frank had to lift them, and he saved them from relegation. So now, if you're Frank Lampard, because here, running a football club and dealing in it day to day, you do. Get to know how a football club works. And if you look at Frank now, so Frank done an amazing job to keep Everton up. Now he's arguably got a worse squad than last year. So what are the expectations from Everton fans with Frank? So if Frank finished 15th this year, arguably he's done a good job. So are the expectations for Everton fans, because it's Everton Football Club, to finish in the top 10? Everton used to be the best of the rest, didn't they? 7th. Yeah. They've had an amazing season with David Moyes finishing in, top 4. Was it top 4 once on 5th or 6th, whatever they've done? But Everton were always the best of the rest. Couldn't quite break into that top 6. But that's not Everton anymore. Look where Everton are.
But if you're an Everton fan, you would argue that actually you don't want to lower your standards, you want to maintain them.
But then you look at the squad, and you look at the last year's squad compared to this year, you've lost Richarlison, arguably your best player. Yeah. Frank's not, he's got McNeil and Tarkowski in. Let's not forget Burnley got relegated. So he's brought 2 players in who from a team who got relegated and lost his best player in Richarlison. So what's the expectation from Frank? So Frank to be favoured to be sacked, it's unfair, because you have to, as an owner, as a board, you have to look at the aspirations of what they've done overall. Yeah. So look at Frank Lampard. What can he do with a worse squad they had last year?
But you're asking football fans and people that run football clubs to be sensible with their expectations, which isn't normal.
Yeah.
But I think Everton fans I think he's got the Everton fans.
Yeah.
I think it got so bad, they brought Benitez in, and that went down as we all saw it did. And Frank came in and he galvanised that support. And I think that'll take him a long way. It would be a brave chairman at Everton to get rid of Frank Lampard next season.
Are there any other managers that you are worried about, that you're concerned might get sacked early doors?
As I said with Southampton, the way they finished the season, I'm not too sure their fans are going to be too happy if they don't start this season very well. So I would say Hasenhüttl is definitely under pressure there. I don't know this, but Cooper at Forest, they've spent a heck of a lot of money, and he's a great manager, and to do anything rash would be silly. But that owner will be looking for a return on that investment. So if it gets to November, December, when we come back from the World Cup, if it's looking like Forest are going to go down, it would not surprise me if there's a change there.
I think the worry would be for somebody like Brendan Rodgers, who is looking to the radio show I do. The expectation of Leicester fans have seen him trying to get into the top 4, winning the FA Cup, and then finishing 8th last season. If they lose those players and they don't bring anybody in, and they start the season poorly, I can guarantee you football fans will ring up radio stations and say Brendan Rodgers has got to go, which is absolute nonsense. Because look how he improves players. Look at what he's done with Leicester, overachieved massively. The expectation's there. So if Leicester start poorly, lose Schmeichel, lose Maddison, Fofana, or 2 of those, and they don't bring anybody in, Vardy's a year older, and they're 14th, 15th, I can guarantee you people will say Brendan Rodgers has got to go, which will be nonsense. So he'll be under massive pressure from fans, but not, I don't think, internally. Because how can you be?
Do you think he might want to go?
Is the time, you look at it now, Schmeichel's looks like he's going. Fofana looks like he's been linked with Chelsea and Maddison. So what is the next phase for Leicester? Because Brendan Rodgers, for me, is a top 6 manager. You know, and what he wants to, he's won the FA Cup, he's nearly got into the Champions League. I don't think Leicester will be there again in the near future. So for me as a manager, I'll be thinking, right, is my time here done?
Where does he go though?
Well, where does he go? Yeah. So you look at Man United's not going to be, City's not going to be, Spurs is not going to be, Arsenal's not going to be.
What about Chelsea?
Chelsea, he's been there as a coach, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Chelsea would be the one you'd look at, you know, if they have a poor start. Newcastle, Eddie Howe, you know, they give him time. So there's not many really where you're thinking, you know, would Brendan Rodgers go to Southampton? I don't think so. I think he's a step down. A step up from Leicester.
I think he only goes to one of those teams you mentioned.
Because I think he's that good. But I can guarantee you that if they have a poor start, the expectations, radio stations, will get calls. Brendan's got to go, and you got to look at the whole picture. What I was going to change subject a little bit. One quick question: what will be the biggest disappointment this season? Will it be if Manchester United don't get Champions League football? If Manchester United don't win the Europa League? If City don't win the Champions League? Would that be a bigger disappointment than Man United not getting in the top 4?
Man United, I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think Man United is their standard that they've been used to over the years, not recently obviously, has been Champions League, and this fella's been brought in to stabilise and bring the club on again.
But you've got them for the top 4. How can they close that gap? Consistency
with performance. Getting an identity, for one, and then having consistent performances. I think there's been far too many individual inconsistencies and collectively the same. They've given up. David De Gea, Player of the Year. Yeah. I think it was 4 out of the last 6 years. That tells you they're giving up so many chances and that they're so inconsistent and the shape of the team isn't right over a long periods of time for a season. So if they can change that and become a team that when you see them go out, you know what you're going to get. That's been the problem with Man United in recent years. When Man United go out onto the pitch, you don't know what Man United are going to turn up. Whether it's going to be the one that goes a goal ahead and then gets beat 2-1, the one that goes a goal down and the heads go down, or the one that goes and blitzes a team every now and again. So if we can find some sort of consistency of performance, that will be the reason that they close that gap and become a top 4.
You don't think City this season, if City don't fail to win the Champions League again, where does that rank in?
But win the league.
The Champions League.
No, but we win the league and don't win Champions League.
Yeah, again.
I don't think you'll be bothered.
No, if you're a City fan, it's been that bad for so long. You love to win the league. You will never, you've been at York City. You've been
here, Michael, 23 years ago.
Watching your team lose at Stockport County.
Are you a City fan?
No, I'm an Oldham fan.
Oldham.
My team, Oldham. Yeah. I've seen Oldham win 4-1 at Main Road.
By the way, fantastic.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
So if you're a City fan, you remember that. And if you win the league, you're like, why am I going to complain that we've not won the European Cup?
Or even Spurs not finishing the Champions League as well. It's a big one. Conte, bit of the investment they've had. Basuma, they've had the best window for me. Perisic, Basuma and Richarlison, arguably the best window in the league.
Robbie, you asked the question, what's your opinion?
You obviously think City.
I think with adding Haaland to the squad, I think that could be the piece where his goals in Europe for Dortmund, it was something like 26 and 27 games in Europe for Dortmund. I think he could be the missing piece of the jigsaw where they could win the Champions League, because people say they've bottled it, but I don't think they've bottled it. It's hard. Listen, Rio knows how hard it is. He played in some of the greatest teams ever to grace the Premier League. And did you win it once or twice?
Once.
So, but Man United in your era won it twice. They won
We won it once,
2008.
got 3 finals and won.
So
won it
how
once.
hard it was that squad he was in to win it. So it's hard to win the Champions League, isn't it? So City haven't got the given right to win it. They've gone close. I think it's harder to win the Premier League than the Champions League. Rio might disagree. Because in the Champions League, you can get the draw and you can have the group stage you can sail through. Then you can have a home and away tie. I know that it's changing, isn't it, soon?
Yeah.
It's changing, the format's changing soon. But is it harder to win the Premier League than the Champions League? Because you've got to play Arsenal twice, Liverpool twice, Man United twice.
I think it's harder now to win the Premier League.
Yeah.
But in our time, I think it was hard. It was harder to win the Champions League. It was
Barcelona.
Yeah, it was like obviously Barcelona would arguably be the best club team we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But we were playing we were rivaling each year. It wasn't 4 or 5 teams vying to. We were just us against Arsenal maybe, or Chelsea, or whoever it was, Man City later on. You could arguably say it is that, but I think the teams below that were further away than these teams are now. You've got the Spurs, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, all that huge investment, and you're looking like they're going to push it a bit closer. I don't think we had that glut of teams below that.
No, I agree.
Liverpool were way off most of the time. Do you know what I mean? Miles off it.
Yeah.
So, and Arsenal were as well. So, yeah, I think it's. I agree. I think you're
Harder to
probably
win the
right.
Premier League.
I think so at the moment
I
now.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just going back to United, I'm hearing that the fans are planning protests for the first game and there's everything going on in the background. Do you think there's an environment there where Ten Hag can be successful?
I think that's where fans have to be careful. I think you've got a new manager coming in. Deep down, they all want him to do well. But these protests will go against that because it's destabilising. It's as much as players, and I've been in situations where there's been protests where players go, it doesn't mean anything, we're just concentrating on football. It is a distraction because the fact you're getting asked a question in a press conference is a distraction. So it remains to be seen whether that happens or not, but I think Ten Hag in his heart of hearts would say, I want to come in and have a clean run at it. All of this noise about stuff outside of the training ground and the 90 minutes when I play on a weekend or a weekday, I don't want to hear it. And that's what he'll be thinking. And so to give him the best opportunity to do well, he'll want that to not happen at all, I'm sure. But the fans have got a right to voice their frustrations at times.
Overall then, Rio, what kind of a season are you expecting?
I don't know, I mean, I just want fireworks. I want strikers to be having shootouts. I want Núñez, Haaland, Ronaldo, Kane, Sonic, Salah to be like going at it goal to goal each week. Loads of mad goals, mad moments in the game, VAR issues, etc. You want it all. The Premier League is the best league in the world, the most entertaining league. We can argue if it's the best quality, but it's the most entertaining league around, and you want that tradition to continue. And Man United to do a lot better than they have been doing in recent years.
Selfish as a journalist, but I want storylines, and I don't think we'll be short of them this season. I think the Man City-Liverpool rivalry, we've only just seen the start of. There's clearly a healthy dislike between those two, and I think those two going for the title against each other, that will just build and build and build.
Sorry, I want an unhealthy dislike. I want it to go back the way that I used to feel about Robbie, and he used to feel like
Tell us more about that. How did you used to feel about Robbie?
Under your skin hate. Like I want to feel that energy, the Vieira, Keane in the. I want them type of subplots to be going around. It's too nice. The league's too nice. I want people to hate each other again.
Yeah.